Disclosure Day is not a story about the sky opening up. It is a story about the earth caving in. Disclosure Day is about the moment humanity discovers it is not alone and realizes the real alien was not in the sky, but in the systems of fear, secrecy, and control we built on Earth. The final revelation is not that something is watching us from the stars. It is that we have been afraid to look up because looking up makes every lie on Earth feel small. Every civilization builds a roof over its panic and calls it sanctuary. Disclosure Day begins when that roof begins to rot. We are told the truth is withheld because the public is fragile, but fragility is merely the ancient alibi of those who crave control. To keep a species in perpetual childhood is the ultimate form of violence. It is to steal their right to stand before the void without a mediator. The cover-up was never a shield against cosmic terror. It was a cage designed to keep us small. We have been raised in a nursery, sleeping while self-appointed guardians whisper about the dark. But a species cannot mature if it is perpetually insulated from the very facts that would force its growth. The system promises that secrecy brings safety, yet every lie that saves you eventually demands your ownership. We surrendered our wonder for an artificial quietude, trading the cold grandeur of the cosmos for the warmth of a prison cell. To live in a managed reality is to agree to your own erasure, piece by piece, until the stars themselves feel like propaganda. The gatekeepers did not protect us from the abyss. They protected themselves from our awakening. In their eyes, an ignorant humanity is a manageable humanity. Secrecy is a poison that mimics medicine. In the beginning, the lie appears compassionate, a necessary narcotic to preserve the social fabric. But quickly, secrecy becomes a habit. Then, it becomes a career. Finally, it becomes architecture. Entire empires are constructed inside the margins of what is kept hidden. We now live in a world edited by invisible hands, where our thoughts are pre-chewed and our skies are pre-interpreted. The true cost of this conspiracy is not the omission of facts, but the degradation of the human soul. When you are denied the right to look at existence plainly, your intellect begins to atrophy. We have built global institutions on the foundation of a shared delusion, and now that foundation is cracking. Disclosure is not merely the arrival of new information. It is the absolute humiliation of the gatekeepers who traded our cosmic inheritance for temporary authority. The lock is realizing, with sudden and terrible clarity, that the key was never divine. It was only brass, and it is about to melt. We must ask ourselves what remains of our civilization when the central pillar of its authority, the monopoly on truth, is revealed to be a hollow scaffolding. The tragedy is not that they lied, but that we accepted the silence as peace. The whistleblower is not a savior. He is a man who commits treason against our comfort. When Daniel steps out of the shadow with the archive, he does not find freedom. He finds a deeper sort of exile. To expose the secret is to become hunted not just by the state, but by the very people who are addicted to the sleep he interrupted. We mistakenly believe we desire the truth, but what we truly crave is the continuation of our routines. The whistleblower's curse is that he must carry the weight of reality alone until he can convince a suspicious world to share the burden. But knowledge is a heavy currency. To offer proof to a culture dying of disbelief is an exercise in tragedy. The whistleblower does not merely fight a secure facility, he fights the biological preference for a comforting falsehood. He stands on the street corner, offering raw fire to people who are perfectly satisfied with their synthetic warmth. He is punished because he reminds us that our ignorance was a choice, and choice is the one thing we can never truly forgive. In the end, the whistleblower is left exposed to the elements, a monument to a truth that everyone wanted to know, but nobody wanted to believe. In the modern arena, evidence is no longer a tool for discovery. It is a weapon for tribal warfare. When confronted with the impossible, the contemporary mind does not ask, "Is this real?" It asks, "Which political faction benefits if I believe this?" The immune system of our culture is designed to neutralize any truth that cannot be instantly monetized or weaponized. We have been so thoroughly trained in cynicism that when the heavens finally part, we will look for the projection screen. The tragedy of modern disclosure is that it must pass through the filter of our exhausted boredom. We have seen too many digital miracles to be moved by a physical one. Truth has lost its purity. It has been dragged through the mud of algorithms, outrage, and public relations until it looks identical to a lie. To speak the truth today is to invite ridicule, not because the truth is absurd, but because belief requires an effort we are no longer willing to make. We prefer the quiet decay of our familiar arguments to the violent renewal of a new paradigm. We would rather drown in a sea of predictable lies than swim in an ocean of unmanageable truths. The ultimate triumph of the system was making us too tired to care. Disclosure is not always a document. Sometimes it is a sickness. Margaret represents the terrifying reality that the truth does not wait for our permission to arrive. It does not wait for a press conference or a declassified file. It bypasses the intellect entirely and enters the nervous system. As a weather forecaster, she is trained to read the sky, but she becomes the sky's medium instead. Her body becomes an antenna, vibrating with a frequency that her mind cannot yet translate. This is how genuine revelation behaves. It is physiological before it is philosophical. First, the nerves twitch. Then, the heart races. And only much later does the mind arrive, dragging its clumsy explanations behind it like baggage left on a platform. Margaret is the fragile bridge between the human and the cosmic, proving that we are not merely spectators of the mystery, we are its instruments. The truly frightening message of her transformation is not that something is watching us from the darkness, but that we may already belong to the very things we are trying to observe. Our flesh is made of the same elements as their craft, and when they call, our biology answers before our consciousness can protest. The ultimate horror of Disclosure Day is not the appearance of monstrosities, but the poisoning of the ordinary. A spaceship in the desert is a cinematic cliché. A bird staring through a kitchen window with human focus is a nightmare. When the cosmic mystery infects our domestic spaces, the home itself ceases to be a refuge. The cardinal, the deer at the edge of the woods, the silence in the hallway, all of them become suspicious. We realize that our categories of nature and normalcy were not truths. They were merely cardboard walls we erected to hide the view. Disclosure does not just expand our horizon, it contaminates it. Every memory is retroactively cast in doubt. Was that childhood dream really a dream? Was that lost hour on the highway really an accident? Once the universe speaks, the silence of matter is exposed as a lie. We find ourselves living in a world where everything is a potential witness, where the very dust in the air might be an eye. The familiar world was never small. We were simply trained to look at it with blinders on. Now that they are torn away, we must live in a house where every shadow has a name. The final stage of disclosure is a digital communion. We receive the most profound revelation in human history through the exact same glass rectangles we use to order food and scroll through trivialities. The machine of global distraction is suddenly transformed into the high altar of reality. This is the supreme irony of our age. The tools that taught us to doubt everything must now carry the weight of an undeniable truth. When the proof goes public, the fragile systems that hold our society together begin to buckle. Religion, politics, science, all of our institutions are calibrated to a specific scale, one where humanity is the undisputed protagonist. Disclosure alters that scale instantly. We are forced to realize that we are not the crown of creation, but a minor, localized event in a crowded universe. Yet this humiliation is the beginning of our release. The lie was a heavy burden, demanding endless energy to maintain. When the truth finally shatters the screen, we are freed from the exhaustion of our own denials. The illusion of our central importance dies in a single afternoon, leaving us with the cold, refreshing air of the real. Disclosure Day is not a story about the sky opening up. It is a story about the earth caving in. The real alien was never the entity in the craft, but the system of absolute control we constructed to hide from our own insignificance. We did not fear the stars. We feared the collapse of our fragile, manufactured hierarchies. The ultimate revelation is that we have spent centuries staring at a painted ceiling, terrified of the day we would have to look up and realize that the only thing keeping us in the dark was our own refusal to see.